Hi, and welcome to Classic Advice. My name is Scarlett Classic. I am your host. This is my podcast all about my advice that I'd like to share with you. I also have co-hosts on, and they bring their own unique experience and expertise to the show, which is awesome. So I'm so happy that you decided to join, and let's dive right into the episode. But before we do that, привет to my listener over in Moscow. I Googled how to say hello in Russian, and that's what it told me. So I hope I pronounced it right. I don't speak Russian by any means. That's the first word I've ever learned. Well, I guess I know da and yet, but that's it. Yeah, I lived over in Romania. I think I mentioned that on my show before. I went up into the Ukraine, but that was really as close to Russia as I ever got while I was living over there anyways. And little fun fact is my husband did that DNA testing and he found out that he's actually part Russian. So yeah, cool little fact. He was excited about that. I'd love to visit Russia one of these days, but we shall see. But the next thing, I added something to my website. If you guys want to meet over Zoom, whether that be you want to chat and see if we want to make an episode for the show together, if it's the right fit, if we have something that jives with the theme of the show, or whether that just be you want to sit and chat and meet. I would love to meet you. We don't have to record anything at all. Even though it says be a guest on the show, we don't have to necessarily record anything. We can just sit and chat and hang out. Then go ahead, click the link, book some time in my calendar, and it'll give you a Zoom link into your email, and we can chat over Zoom. I would love to meet you guys, even if it's just virtually over a Zoom call. That would be so awesome. I am so excited to see that email in my inbox that you guys want to meet up over Zoom. So please don't be shy. Head on over there, and yeah, let's meet over Zoom. Alrighty, without further ado, let's dive right into the episode. The importance of boredom for your mental health. Did you guys know that being bored is actually good for you? Yeah, it is. It really is. I can attest to this myself. And my kids don't like it when I say that. They'll go, "Oh, mommy, I'm bored." And I'll be like, "Well, it's good for you. You can process your emotions." And they just kind of roll their eyes. Yeah. I looked it up as per Google. The definition of boredom is the state of being weary and restless through lack of interest. For me, it's like you don't know what to do. You're feeling kind of meh. You're not, your mind isn't being engaged in an interesting way, and you're bored. But when you're bored, I believe that's when you really process things kind of unintentionally, if you want to put it that way, or you get ideas. Your imagination just wakes up when you're bored. For example, do you have any really good thoughts in the shower? Right? Me too. Fancy that. Or for me, another one is when I'm trying to sleep. When I finally put my book down, or I put my phone down, or I whatever, put my journal down, it's the end of the night, I set my alarms and I close my eyes and I'm trying to actually sleep. That's when I get all the ideas for my podcast. That's when I get all the ideas for what should happen next in my book. Right. Yeah. So then I pick up my phone, or I get a piece of paper and I write them down so I don't forget, because I know if I don't, I'll wake up the next morning and I'll be like, what was that great idea I had last night? And I'll completely just like, poof, yeah, it was gone. It's gone. She gone. And then I'm up for longer than I want to be because I get all these cool thoughts. And then there was one night a little while ago, that I just kept having great ideas over and over and over and over again. And eventually I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not writing down any more ideas because I have way too many anyways. I'm just going to go to sleep. And then I eventually fell asleep a little while later. But it was like, bing, the light went on. Oh, my mind's not being actively engaged. My mind's not being thrown all of these things, information and whatnot through the day. For me, I have a very, I guess it's not a physical job, it's a mind job. So I'm constantly using my brain. I'm constantly thinking about things. Or when I'm not thinking about things at work, if I have a break, I'm writing in my book, or I'm doing something on my phone, or when I'm driving, I'm listening to a podcast. So my mind is constantly being thrown information and being engaged from an outside source, that when I sit and there's nothing happening and it's silence, like that, it's like my mind just starts to race with all these ideas and all these thoughts and all these maybe emotions, or things that my friend is going through, or things that I'm going through, or something that's happening that my kid's dealing with, or something that I need to do when I get home. And it's just like my mind just it just lights up. When I'm bored, my mind lights up. And you do, when you're bored, when you have nothing thrown at you, you can process things. Back in the day, before technology, before when we were living like not caveman, but like tribes, a lot of the tasks that you had to do were boring. For example, I learned how to do hides. So I used to do my rabbit hides, and I have a moose hide hanging up on my wall that I did. But the actual process of doing it is tedious. It takes a long time, and it's boring. For example, my moose hide, you have to scrape off all I don't want to get too graphic. So you have to scrape it before you throw it in the solution to tan it. It literally took me 24 hours. I stayed up till really late at night, and then when I literally could not stand up anymore, I laid down, I slept for a few hours, and then when I woke up, I just started doing it again. Because you have to get it done. You have to get it all done right away. And I figured out that it was 24 hours it took me to do that. To scrape off all the stuff I needed to scrape so I could put it into the solution. But this was before I even knew podcasts were a thing. I didn't have a radio on. It was nothing. It was like back in the day where it was me, my knife, and a hide. And I'm literally for 24 hours. And knitting or beading or peeling potatoes or pulling weeds or harvesting vegetables, or what's something else we used to do back in the day? Mending clothes. All of that stuff, you rewind even just a couple hundred years, and our minds weren't so, I don't want to say engaged, but for lack of a better way of putting it, we weren't thrown all this stuff all the time. It's like we had the time to be bored, and we had the time to process our thoughts and to live in our imagination. And I really firmly believe that that's really important. I purposely don't let my kids bring their devices, their phones, tablets, in the vehicle. They're not allowed. When we are in the car, you can look out the window. We can talk. We can have a conversation. You can play those games where it's like you pick a color and then whoever gets the most, like every time, say you pick blue, and every time a blue car goes by, you get a point. And then you see at the end of a 3-hour-long road trip who won. Or what about Padiddle? Have you guys ever played Padiddle? Just showing my age a little bit. So Padiddle, let me explain it to you. It's a really great game to play on road trips. It's all about headlights. Typically, it's better to play this when it's dark out as opposed to during the day. But Padiddle is a car that only has one headlight on. So that's a Padiddle. A Padiddle that'll do. that's when the car doesn't have their headlights on at all, just the running lights, so just those orange ones. And whoever says it first, and you have to hit your hand to the roof of the car, whoever does it first, for a Padiddle, it's 1 point. For a Padiddle that'll do, it's 3 points. Oh my goodness. Like, we played that game all the time. I grew up in a town called Spruce Grove. My grandma, both my parents come out from the Lloydminster area. They grew up on farms out by Marwayne. And the drives to the farm or to grandma's house, it was awesome because it was a 3-hour drive, and typically we were doing it in the dark, and we played Padiddle like there was no tomorrow. Or 20 questions. You ever played 20 questions in the car? Where you think of something and then the other people have to guess what it is within 20 questions. And it can be a person, place, or thing. That was a great game. It engages your imagination. And being bored is good for you. I have noticed from when I was a kid to nowadays, our attention spans, even us adults, not just the kids, our attention spans are like non-existent. Because it's like whenever we're bored, what do? What do you do? As soon as you get bored, what do? And if your answer was you picked up your phone, I get you. I do. That's what I do. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, I'm even watching a movie. I don't particularly, I'm like, okay, yeah, let me just check my email here. We don't allow ourselves to be bored. And I think we're missing out on a lot of things because we don't allow ourselves to be bored. The things that you could imagine and come up with and be inspired about from your own mind is astonishing. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but sometimes the ideas I get when I'm bored, they're the best. For example, there's a podcast that I listen to all about how to write a novel. And he was saying inspiration, his name is James Thayer, and he says in his podcast, inspiration doesn't come before you get to the keyboard. Inspiration comes when you're at the keyboard. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to tell you again, just in case you didn't hear that episode. But I was sitting down and I was trying to write in my book. And I was sitting there and I wrote a couple paragraphs and then I reread it and I'm like, ugh, no, delete. And then I wrote it. And it was like a half an hour I sat there and I was like, what is the matter with me? Like, I can't write right now. And I was so close to just saving it, closing my laptop and be like, whatever, I'll try later. Obviously, I don't have inspiration right now. And that his little voice was in my head being like, no, inspiration comes when you're at the computer. Don't wait for it to come first and then go to the computer, because then you'll never go to the computer and your book will never get done. So I was like, okay, I will listen to you, Mr. Thayer, and I will do my thing. It's a sit here. And you know what? Eventually, a scene came to me and I typed it out in like 5 or 10 minutes. Bam, like pages worth. And I am so proud of that scene. So thank you so much, James Thayer, for all your advice. I love your podcast. You're doing awesome. It's really, really great. I will put the link to all my listeners in the show notes. If you guys are writing a novel, he gives some really, really great advice. I'm a much better writer now, so thank you so much. Another really great thing that comes from boredom is the attitude of it is what it is. When my kids come to me and say, Mommy, I'm bored, sometimes I'll say, like I said before, it's good for you. You can process your emotions. And they roll their eyes and ugh. But another thing that I also have told them is life is boring sometimes. Especially when we're in the car. Riley will go, Mommy, I'm bored. And my response, his life is boring sometimes. It is what it is, kiddo. And they don't particularly like that reply, but they're just kind of like, and he'll look out the window. And I can see him just having some thoughts to himself. Or sometimes he starts playing with nothing but his hands. And he pretends they're little dragons and he goes, rah, 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 rah. You know, like his imagination just lights up. And that attitude, being able to have that attitude of it is what it is. Life is boring sometimes. It's great because it's true. I used to do a lot more traveling back in the day than I do now. But riding in cars, traveling in trains, flying in an airplane is boring because you're literally stuck in a seat for hours on end. And then you get to your destination, like in an airplane, for example, and you have a 8-hour layover, but you can't leave the airport because it's not quite enough time to actually leave the airport and go do something, because then you might not make it back in time, and then you're stuck in that city for even longer, and then it costs and blah, blah, blah. It's boring sometimes. But it is what it is. And being able to just, it's okay. Let go. My challenge to you guys this week is allow yourself to be bored. When you get bored, don't automatically reach for your phone. Don't turn the radio on. Don't automatically put a podcast on. Yeah, I know. If you're listening to me, then yeah, you can turn me off, but come back. Please, I'll miss you. But allow yourself to be bored. And see what happens. See what kind of thoughts you have. And then email me, because I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear what you thought about when you were bored. What kind of ideas did you have? I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it. Love, love, love. And before I let you guys go, I'm going to leave you with JJ's tagline, which is please pause, love yourself enough to be bored sometimes, and be aware of your ripple. And thank you, everyone, for being here. I am so honored and touched that you guys keep showing up week after week to listen and to be here with me and to spend time with me. And it means the absolute world to me. So, yeah, I will miss you all till next week, but have a good one, and we'll see you later. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you for listening all the way to the very end. Aw, you're the best. My website is classicchronicles.ca. If you want to head on over there, I have my co-hosts, all listed there. If you click on their photos, it'll take you directly to their website. Go say hi to them. They would love to hear from you. Podcasters love hearing from their listeners. So go say hi. Don't be shy. And if you want to as well, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link on there, which all the proceeds I use to just pour right back into my podcast. It does cost me just a little bit to have this podcast going, and I would love to be able to support it instead of taking it out of my own pocket and maybe, take the kids for an ice cream because they don't like coffee. I love coffee though. So, all right, you guys take care and we'll see you next week. Bye.